Paul, good to see you.
Stefan, you too. What a surprise.
So let's start our second Stefan Salon. Someone called me yesterday, by the way, and asked what a saloon is. I was trying to explain, no, it's a salon. So it's really trying to be a speaking format. But I like the saloon idea, actually, Paul. We should have done that, dressed as cowboys and make a big entrance. But I'm welcoming you all for our second salon. Today with Paul, as you've seen on the announcement, we were actually planning to be our boy band, the three of us, but you have to enjoy Paul and me. So Paul, the singing part, we just have to see how we do it, just the two of us,
If it's going really bad.
John normally takes the high tunes, so now we have to see who of the two of us has to cover that part now. But Paul, thank you so much for joining. Of course, the topic today is words made of atoms, some words about some words, linked to the exhibition that we have up by you guys here in S-chanf. I'm right now sitting in our space. You see this fantastic wall here in the back. With these new text pieces by Paul, and we thought due to the fact that we are in lockdown and unfortunately we can't welcome anyone to the show, we thought it would be nice to organize a salon to talk about these new text pieces, or to talk about language in the work with Paul. Just for everyone's information, we're very happy to answer questions later. So feel free to use the Q&A function here to ask us very serious questions. I'm especially addressing this to all my close friends and family who are watching this right now. Take this serious. Even if Paul and I maybe are not that serious, we're really looking forward to some good questions, which we will answer later. Paul, yeah, let's start. You have this fantastic piece in your background, a large piece of paper on my wall. Maybe let's start about that, because I think it's a very good example on what language can do, or what kind of damage language can create, because as we discussed previously, this is a piece that is an edition. It's an ongoing edition. It's a piece that I think we're selling for 35 Swiss francs. It's like a poster and that we're selling. And we posted it on various social media channels, and a lot of people got really offended. So maybe you want to say something about how you reacted to that, or how you felt about that.
Well, we were, I mean, that together with the fact that a couple of the external works were stolen.
Yeah, exactly. Another amazing
thing. It's going so well.
Isn't it great?
I think it's, I mean, it was a surprise, but then in some ways, I think, I don't know, I suppose as an artist, if you spend a lot of time with other artists and people that are involved with art, all the time, you kind of forget a little bit, I think, that you're in this bubble where you do these things and people just sort of accept that you're doing these things. And I think then sometimes when it goes outside, either if you have public works outside the gallery space, in a kind of, in this case, in a small village, or if the work then goes onto social media, then sometimes I think it just meets the public. And you're reminded that, what you do, maybe isn't kind of like every day, and maybe it isn't kind of, a normal kind of thing to do. I think as artists, we've always thought that we're pretty, we don't think we're that objectionable in terms of like our personalities, could be wrong, or in terms of the work. We think it's quite an open work, especially, even from the beginning with the video works, we made them, they were kind of, we wanted them to be watchable and enjoyable in a sense, in the kind of first experience. And then all the other things that were going on would hopefully then slowly develop and kind of filter through. So yeah, we kind of enjoy when the work meets a public who are not seeing art all the time or not involved directly in it. That's kind of, one of the best things, one of the highlights. But you do, sometimes get sometimes, I mean, I'd say on the whole, you get great reactions. You know, it's kind of, it's unusual, it's interesting, it's all those kind of things. But then occasionally something hits, and it, you know, it just rubs people up the wrong way, I guess. I mean, the thing with this piece is it's quite a, it's not a throwaway piece in a way, but you know, it's quite a light piece. It was meant to be a poster, something that people could have, and a lot of the work, you know, we say really that we've spent the last 30 years working on a an encyclopedia of the largely useless, you know, and making definitions of things, you know, or what a possible thing could be, or how to do something. And with this, it was just, you know, it's what a poster is. You know, it's a poster with its own kind of possible definition written on it.
But I think it's interesting, you know, we had with certain artists in our program, of course, you know, sometimes people do feel offended by an artwork. I mean, I remember we once had an Imi Knöbel painting, which was 3 by 3 meter, just dark green. And of course we had people coming to the gallery, and then they saw the work and they saw the price, and they were like, I mean, sorry, are you shitting me? I mean, it's like a 3 by 3 meter green panel for this amount of money. So of course I understand that, how people can be offended by that if they don't, you know, maybe know the work, or if that's not their taste, or if they don't feel like this. I mean, of course, you know, it's very difficult to understand if you're not close to these kind of works. But what I was surprised with your text piece is that, you know, of course, language addresses that much more directly. You know, it offends people, or people feel offended much easier, you know, because it talks to them. You know, it's like a dialogue. But we were just like, it's interesting. I mean, good and bad, you know, how people can react so sensitive about it. I think it's really that they feel like, maybe, you know, you don't take them serious, or you don't take art serious. And I think this is an interesting, or a very thin line in general when you speak, or when you work with language, so to say, the spoken word, or the written word, that there it's just so easy also to offend. But I was just surprised, because if you also look at these works back here, that has never been your intention. So you think it will have an influence on you, if you're going to do these kind of works in the future?
What, the fact that some people were offended?
Yeah, or just say like, okay, can we, is it maybe, can we do it, or can we not do it, or do we have to do it differently, you know, communicate differently, or?
I mean, I think to a certain extent, you know, I do find it interesting, and I think it's a valid point. You know, if people don't like work, or are, you know, strongly offended by it, I guess there's an element, perhaps, especially on social media, that people are annoyed by everything. You know, on social media. So
Good point. Good point.
So it's kind of almost, well, if you make any work of any description, you know, I think perhaps with our stuff, where we do get that, you know, that kind of idea that it's kind of accessible, is partly because a lot of the work perhaps looks like something else. You know, like the video works look a bit like TV, they look a bit like TV commercials or cinema, for instance. So people feel a little bit more comfortable, you know, encountering them. You know, they're more used to that language. And I think it's the same thing happens with you know, because that is a poster, you know, and people had posters on their walls when they were, you know, kids, teenagers and stuff. So it feels almost as though it's kind of like something that they know the language of. So therefore they feel perhaps more comfortable talking about it. You know, I mean, there is also the fact that, you know, and I'm not referencing by any means the Imi Knoebel piece. I didn't see it, but I'm sure it was amazing, as most of the work is. But there is some bad work, and people are right sometimes to be angry.
Definitely.
And artists are angry about work and stuff, and that could be a bad work. I don't know. You know, I mean, we've been working together a long time. 30 years now. We've
Maybe
made
it's going like this now, you know.
probably about 29 years ago.
We should have a conversation with John about that later, you know. I think we have to blame it. We have to blame it on him, you know. The bad text pieces. We have to be like, John, let's have a conversation about that.
It was definitely John's doing, all the bad bits. But I think, you know, I think that what I find interesting is that, and I'll talk to this, you know, to to my students a lot about this, is that you will make work which is terrible, because even though, no matter how much experience you have, how much time and how, kind of the resources that are at disposal, you get things wrong. You get things wrong on a daily basis, and that's kind of interesting. I mean, the trick is to not let any of those wrong ones leave the studio. That's the thing. You keep those in house.
So there's a number of artists that we should address that quote to. Of course, none in our program, of course, but more talking about the overall art world. But to come back to language, I mean, the other thing that we recently discussed, and which I think is really interesting to hear more about it, is the fact that, also when we met, your work, for me, it was very much, the video. It was the video work. So if you talked about John Wood and Paul Harrison, it was all about these video pieces. It was also the time, when we saw that installation at the Palazzo, when you had that piece that just went into the Tate. So there was a big aura around your work of being this artist duo that does these video pieces. And I remember when you started to do these unique text posters, and we spoke about it, you were mentioning that sometimes those are thoughts when you're sitting in the studio and you have these thoughts and you write down kind of comments and quotes or ideas, that these kind of became then the inspiration or the text, so to say, the language for these posters. And it would be interesting to see nowadays, I feel like the text in your work has become such an important aspect of your overall oeuvre, how this shift has been from video to text, but also where the inspiration for these texts behind us maybe comes from. I mean, we know now from the last time we spoke that the title Words Made of Atoms has a fantastic story, but if you could tell us a little bit more about these links to the video work and also where these texts come from, that would be great.
Yeah, I mean, I think, as we were saying the other day, I'm just gonna play this. It will click in. The video works. When we started off, we made and then showed exclusively kind of video works in which we both appeared, and that was for the first kind of 8 or 9 years, I think. And it was, I mean, it's partly circumstance, partly what we were interested in, partly because also that video is a great medium for collaboration, and we decided, for whatever reason, that that we wanted to work together. A bad mistake looking back. We wanted to collaborate. Video is great for collaboration. So
and then you were like, gosh, we have to stick to each other. It's this John Wood and Paul Harrison label that you created, the monster that you created yourself.
Yes, thank you for that. It's too late now. It's too late. But we both studied painting at art school. That's what we kind of graduated, and we were both involved in that to various degrees throughout kind of largely the first 2 years of studying, and then less so in the third year. But that's where we sort of came from. Then we found this, that we wanted to work together, and video was a great way of working together. John had already started to do some video work at college. I was playing around with it a little bit. I was doing a little bit more performance and that kind of stuff, but it kind of fitted together really well. And also, when you don't have very much money and you don't really have a great studio, then video is also a really good medium to work with, because you can make it relatively inexpensively, as we did and it's very easy to distribute. There's no shipping, there's no storage. It's just, in those days, it was sent out on a VHS tape.
That's the reason why I wanted to start work with you guys, and now you do this to us. I mean,
yeah, I know. Now you've got the shipping costs. I'm realizing that I'm disappearing a little bit on the screen, but maybe it's worth seeing a little bit.
You look a little bit like a semi-ghost.
Thanks. But saying that, right from the beginning, the things like sculpture, through the props we were using, or painting, through the selection of color and the composition of the shot, text, through the notes we were making, how we were kind of storyboarding these videos, writing down little thoughts. Everything really has been there from the beginning. It's just really a really long kind of teasing out of those, the ways of working that we had right at the beginning, and just developing them. And then I think what happens, and it happens to quite a lot of artists, is that especially if you're working out, over a long period of time, is you change as an individual, and in our case as a collective, and you become interested in, you know, in different things. So some of these things that were in the background, it becomes fun to bring them out. I mean, I remember we were having conversations about like, we wanted to make different kinds of shows. You know, we'd done shows where it was just video and another video and another video and another video, and we wanted to be able to kind of change the pace of a show. So you had a video, then a room with some drawings, and then, you know, so it was, you could make different kinds of shows. And we sat down and we were kind of like, well, we don't want to kind of print stills from the video, which is what some people did back in the, you know, in the early mid 90s. And we don't want to really show drawings of, you know, the mechanics of the video so much. We wanted to make drawings which stood in their, you know, out in their own right. And I remember sitting down and thinking, right, if we made a drawing, what would that drawing look like? You know, and because in the videos we have things which are so standard, you know, like standard durations or standard formats of boards or materials that we're using, you know, we look for those kind of pre-made systems. When it came to drawing, it was kind of like, well, let's make them on A4 or A3 or A1, you know, kind of these standard sizes.
Mm-hmm.
And then further on, as we developed, we just took that into sculpture. What would a sculpture look like that we made? So when it came to the paintings that are behind you, it's like, what would a painting look like that we made? You know, taking into account all these experiences and all the works that we previously made. And we thought, right, okay, well, first of all, they have to be, you know, they're going to be standard. So they're on pre-bought ply panels. They're, you know, easily available. It has to be oil paint because that's what a painting is. You know, it's that kind of classic kind of, you say to someone, what does a painting look like? And it, you know, it's, or what's it made of? And then it's oil. And then really it was just about, you know, what we wanted to do with those, you know, with those paintings and what we wanted to try and say. And again, with the video works, and again with the sculptures, and again with the drawings, a lot of the work is kind of self-referential. It either refers back onto the medium that it's talking about. So the works behind you, there are a few up there which talk a little bit about the fact that this painting is a painting. You know, in the same way, this poster is a poster. This is the definition. And then others were about the act of, you know, the fact that there were these kind of objects which dealt with language. So we talk about words within them, and that's self-referential again. And then others were more about the act of, you know, a transition. So we had one which is no longer there, the free painting, which was, you know, which was free.
That was amazing. Oh yeah, you have to tell that story.
So it actually started off weirdly as a drawing that John came up with a couple of years ago on a list. And we do have huge lists of possibilities for drawings or different works. And one of them was free drawing. And I said to him, so should we make this one free? And he said, yeah. And he actually said, no word of a lie, this will really annoy Stefan. So we said we did. So when it came down to making these
that
texts,
sounds like John.
It does sound like John. We made these text paintings, which, and another way they came in, and I talked about it the other day, was that we did prints of texts a few years ago, and we've made them for several years. And again, that thing of you're doing something for a certain period of time, you feel like you want to do something different or push them, and we just wanted a different way of rendering text. And one of the reasons we chose painting was because we wanted to talk a little bit about painting. You know, we knew some of them were going to refer to that, you know, that kind of act in a way. So yeah, so free painting, we decided that we would make it free. So we wrote a contract that just stated that, you know, when it's shown, if someone came up to whoever was there in the gallery and said, is that free? That they could then
painting.
Yeah, they could keep the painting.
It was actually quite nice because here where it says portrait, there was a painting in light blue, which as Paul just explained, said free painting. And I remember that Julia, who's running our Engadine space, she was here in the visitor. Actually, I think he was here from New York. I mean, that sounds so crazy now looking at the overall situation, but he was here from the States. walked into the gallery and says like, is this actually for free? And then she was like, oh my God, yeah. And then she took photos of him because we wanted that for our social media channels. But I remember we were really nervous, and we were really excited to see, okay, who's going to be the first to ask the question, who's going to get the piece? Because you made it very clear that no member of the gallery or any members, of the family and so on are allowed to ask the question. And I remember that we were somewhere with Hester, we were traveling, and then suddenly in our chat, in the gallery chat, Julia started to post tons of photos because she was so excited, that it now happened and that someone asked for it. And I think he was very surprised. We should actually reach out to him and see like how it's installed now in New York. But
Yeah.
the aspect that the contract that he had to sign, or that the person that received the work had to sign, also quotes that he is not, or she is not allowed to sell the work. It can only be given away for free. So that is, so there again, that you use that contract to make it very clear. It's of course another very interesting aspect to that work. It becomes like a performance in itself.
Mm-hmm. I mean, I think a lot of the work, maybe the going back to the poster and that kind of reaction is that, we obviously, I mean, it's making this stuff is what we do. We take it very seriously. And we've devoted a lot of time to it, but we made a decision very early on that we perhaps weren't going to be the wealthiest of artists, partly because there's two of us, partly because a lot of the work that we make and we still make is video work.
You blame your gallerist for not selling enough here?
Yeah, we could also talk about the galleries here, but
really great talking to you. No.
But we thought, well, we're going to be doing this for a long time. We're going to be stuck in a room together for a long time. Let's try and make it enjoyable and fun, and I suppose enjoyable in a way that both in the fact that we enjoy what we're doing, but also enjoyable because it's a challenge. It's actually kind of hard work to make some of these things and to keep going and to find new ways of talking about things.
But before we're going to go over to the Q&A, maybe quickly, you just want to say the story about the story of the words made of atoms piece.
Yeah, so this was we were spending quite a lot of time together putting together lists of possible text sequences, for these works. And John came in one day and he just said that Amber, his daughter, had just come home one day from school and just said, our words made of atoms. Which is kind of like brilliant. She also asked, I think, if different letters taste differently. So we have a piece, a text piece coming up, which I think will say letters taste of lettuce is one, and we also as well in that kind of just to finish off, one of the ones that we're doing and is going to New York in a couple of months is I'm struggling to remember what it's called. It's called This is a Foreign Language. Because we recognize that that we're English, we're both English, we British, we only speak English, and we're just sending these things out that are written in this kind of the only language that we can speak.
That's all you've got. Shall we answer some of the questions? Maybe you ready for that?
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
I think I have to click here that we can share it. So here is one. What does it mean to you to exhibit your artwork in the mountains in S-chanf?
Well, it was. It's great. I mean, I've been.
Isn't it great? You do a show in S-chanf. You do outdoor pieces that get stolen, posters that get criticized on social media and offend people, and the exhibition is not visible because we are in lockdown. Isn't it amazing?
It's perfect, and I couldn't. I mean, I was super pissed off because we planned the show quite a long time ago.
Of course.
And I remember thinking, because we did one show there, I don't know, maybe 5 years ago, maybe even longer. I don't really remember. So I've been to the space and I've been to the area, which is amazing. But it was in the summer, which was great. But I remember when I was being there, just thinking next time it's got to be in the winter.
Yeah.
You know, getting proper snow. So obviously things didn't work out quite in that way. So the show was kind of done remotely. So I didn't get to travel out, which is the biggest pity. But it's a beautiful space in a beautiful spot. I mean, it's odd and weird and all those kind of things, you know, that it's got this perfect white cube in that kind of environment. It's just kind of amazing. So yeah, we were super chuffed. We're just hoping we don't have to wait another 6 or 7 years to do the next one.
Don't worry.
Good.
You won't. Another question is, what is your preferred medium in which to work? Text-based works or performance film? Do you approach an idea with the medium in mind first, or does that develop as an idea grows?
I think it's a good question. We have ideas, I suppose, because we've worked together so long. There's a kind of inbuilt language, you know, a kind of shorthand that we use. So we begin to talk about an idea, and usually, you know, it's accompanied by, this will be a good video work or whatever. Some things have changed. I mean, we were talking a few years ago about making a thing called a film about a city, which started out as a video work, and we actually test shot, spent quite a lot of time filming it. But in the end, over a course of about 2 or 3 years, that kind of transformed into this huge sculptural piece, which Stefan is storing for us very kindly, which was an architect's model of a city. So usually it comes along roughly about the same time. You know, there's an idea.
Storing that work?
Sorry?
Am I storing that work?
I hope you're storing that work. Well, I shouldn't have reminded you, should I?
Is the city, is it with us?
Yeah. How could you?
I don't know. We have to, good to know.
It's huge.
Take a note.
It's huge.
I want to show that piece.
Yeah. So yeah, sometimes it changes and develops. I think, you know, the video works will always be the key element to the work that we make. I think we gradually, about 10 or 12 years ago, gradually introduced the other things with drawings and then sculptures and so on. But we'll always carry on making the videos. They are immensely time consuming.
Yeah.
And difficult to make sometimes. So some of the other things, it keeps us, it enables us to make more work, but also to kind of keep really interested in what we do.
Another question that we have here, I'm having my dear wife trying to do something on my computer. Hi, is it okay? Fine, I think. The next question, you said about making terrible work will happen and that you will get things wrong, but you make sure the wrong ones don't leave the studio. But how do you know if you have got something wrong? What do you think makes a piece of work wrong? That's a good one. That's a good one. I like that one.
It's a super good question. I must first of all fess up and say that over 30 years, I don't think we've been totally 100% successful in not letting out, you know, bad works. Mm-hmm. You know, some of them probably have, and some people may think that we've produced nothing but terrible work. I don't know, but we hope not. We hope not. But I think what you do is you get a feel for, you know, I mean, we've finished works. We have like finished works in the studio which are created, which we'll know we'll never let out. There's just something that just isn't quite right. And normally what happens is you look back in the process of making it and it's never quite been right. Sorry, I'm just getting my...
Is it John sending you messages like, shut up, don't say that.
Don't say we've made terrible work. Don't be too honest. But I think that happens, you know, I think that happens to every artist. But I think it's kind of like, you know, there's an intellectual process of like, does this work? Does this say, is this made well enough? You know, very simple things like that. You know, is it the right work for this time? Is it the right work for this show? Because that's the other thing as well, is you could take a work and show it in one show, one combination of works, and it doesn't work, put it somewhere else and it can begin to work in a much more interesting way. Sometimes you make things which are, you know, a few years ago, and we showed it at the gallery, we made a work called Sheep Entertainment, which is 100 sheep cast, and then there's in the middle of this kind of scatter of sheep, there's two sheep, one stood on top of the other one, and all the sheep are looking at these two sheep, and it just came from us a conversation of, you know, like how would sheep entertain themselves, and it is, you know, I mean, I love it. I think it's a really nice work. I'm really kind of proud of it, but
I like it as well.
it's a it's a terrible gag, you know. It's a terrible work in some ways, and we deliberately kept
That's why I like it so much.
we deliberately kept a really awkward title, you know, because it's just, so I think it's, I suppose the other thing as well is, you know, maybe as you get older and you've done a bit more, you get a little bit more relaxed in the fact that you realize that, you know, you will make, you know, the occasional bad work, and you will do the occasional bad show, and it's not that we're trying to do it, it's just, it's, I think if an artist is only making work which they think is great, then they're probably not pushing themselves enough.
We're getting really good questions here. Let's maybe get 2 or 3 more questions in. There's one person, and it says, the question is for both Stefan and Paul. That's, of course, why I want to read it out. Isn't it a big challenge to sell text-based art at the same price as paintings, as people seem to think that it's just words on a piece of paper or canvas and don't value it as much? Actually, a question to both Stefan and Paul. No, I mean, it really depends. Of course, if you look at what we did or what you did with these posters, then of course it's a different conversation. But that's also why it's priced differently. With these artworks here behind me, I feel strongly about the fact that they have exactly the same value and importance as an oil painting, for example, in the same size. Because I think also an artist that does a classical landscape oil painting maybe doesn't need more time or less time to do that. And conceptually, I think you can't really judge by just if it's a text piece or not. So for me, I don't see a problem there. You too, Paul?
No, I mean, we're pretty. I mean, our business motto is break even, cover our costs. You know, that's not a great business motto in terms of being commercial as an artist. We don't kind of, I suppose we make things which we're interested in, and we hope other people are interested in. And obviously, you know, in terms of sustaining a career, you hope that then individuals and collections want to purchase them and have them in their collection at home or in a museum or a gallery or whatever, you know. So I think that, you know, I think in the range of how much a contemporary artist's painting can cost, then they don't cost that much.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Maybe one more here from Joe. Concerning the outdoor pieces, of which you see one in the background with Paul, Joe's asking, did you make a map of the poster locations? And also, are you keeping records of these sites? Did you already have a friend relations with the venues, or do it without permission? Yeah, doing something without permission in Switzerland, very tricky task, because of course there was a certain beauty in the initial idea to do these outdoor pieces. So when John and Paul approached us with that, we were very, very excited, but we realized right from the beginning that we do have to get permissions. And actually it was Julia here from the gallery that had to talk to all the venues and had to talk to the what you call it, like to the government. I don't know, that's maybe an even too big word, but to the people in charge here in S-chanf and also in Swartz. And I know that even in S-chanf there was they had to vote if it's okay to accept these posters. But I think it was an easier approach because it's an artwork, and it doesn't have a logo or information or anything. It's really just, so to say, the text as a piece. So we were able to install it, but we had to get permission for it, and we're very happy that we did. And it's still, I mean, apart from the fact that 2 got stolen, please don't take that as an invitation to steal more. Everything went very legal, let's call it that way. Maybe one more. Gosh, we have so many questions. Okay. Paul, do you want to choose one?
I can't see them.
You can.
Can I? How do I see? Oh, I see Q&A. Okay.
Oh, but I like this one actually. If I made the last one, is pretty good. My brother believes that artists are just con artists. What do you think about this?
Believes that artists are just con artists. I like the sound of your brother. Yeah. Now that's, well, I mean, yeah, it could be. Could be.
Right?
I mean, I think if we were, we wouldn't be the worst people on the planet at the moment.
No.
Even if that was the case. Can I answer super quickly some of the other ones?
Sure, of course.
Right. What kind of art do you have at home? Some of mine, although my partner doesn't like that too much.
No, what she doesn't? Helen is like.
No, she does like, she likes the occasional piece of work that we make. But as with many artists who can't afford to buy their own work, they can't afford to buy a lot of other work. So we have a lot of things which have been gifted or swapped. So really nice little things from.
But that's a very personal story, that's beautiful.
Yeah. Is bad publicity still good even today? Yeah, maybe. I don't know. I suppose it depends how bad it is, doesn't it? I mean, you could. We often joke about the career-ending piece of work. That we make something which is so bad that's it. People just go, yeah, no, just stop now.
Give up.
Yeah, give up now.
But
I mean, we
tried really hard, but no.
No. Are there any others you can see there that?
So, Paul, I think we have to wrap up. I'm getting a very, very clear signs that enough is enough. I think everyone is bored. Sorry? No, we don't have to answer everything.
Okay.
That's what I got. But thank you, everyone. I mean, especially Paul, thank you so much for talking to us and taking the time. Thank you so much also for this wonderful exhibition. It's really, as I told you, super unrelated to that we are in its talk now. For me, it's one of the most beautiful shows we've ever had up here. We're very, very thankful and super happy also about these new works. For everyone who unfortunately couldn't go and see it, please check it out on our website from bartha.com. There's a nice documentation about it and an OVR where you see all the works. And Paul, please give my regards also to John and everyone who's watching. Thank you so much for joining the Stefan Salon, or we call it Salon. Let's stay there. And yes, big promise. Next time Paul and I go live, we will have John joining and we will sing for you. But without John, we can't do it. So thank you so much. Thank you, Paul, and thank you everyone for watching.
Thanks, everyone. Bye.
Bye.